Collins, and I'm the Director of Local Audits. And as the slide indicates, I'm joined today by Wendy Choi, Christina Baylor, and then Kirk Choi, who were the audit team that did the work. Before we get into presenting the results of the Marysville School District audits, I just kind of want to set the stage a little bit with regarding some background on the Office of the State Auditor's Office. So the state constitution of Washington creates the auditor's office as an independent elected office to be the auditor of all public accounts. And so with that, we audit all local governments and state agencies across the state as the auditor of all public funds. So about every year we do about 2,400 audits. And with that, we feel like those audits instill accountability and transparency and promote trust in government. So today we're here to present the Marysville School District audits. They're audited annually. We have 3 audits to present the results for. We have an accountability audit, which audits the internal controls and safeguarding of public funds. We have a financial statement audit that audits the district's financial operations as of fiscal year end August 31st, 2023. And then we have a third audit, which is a federal compliance audit, which looks at the controls and the compliance of our federal grants. In those 3 audits, we have 2 audit findings. One audit finding has to do with the grant and the federal compliance. And then the second finding has to do with the financial condition of the school district. So State Auditor Pat McCarthy is a former school board member. And so she's very empathetic with the financial conditions or financial challenges that schools across the state are facing. But she is concerned and alarmed with this district's finding in our audit with regard to financial condition. So I'm going to hand off to Christina to go over the detailed results of the audit. And then she'll hand off to Kirk and we'll wrap it up with Wendy and take comments or questions at the end of that presentation.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon to share the results of the first of 3 audits that we conducted on behalf of Marysville School District. Before we get into those results, I'd like to do a quick mention about our PowerPoint presentation as well as the packet of information that you have in front of you. We have prepared a PowerPoint presentation to walk through a summary of the results, and we'll walk through those pretty briefly, but before you also have a packet of information that contains more detailed versions of those results, including draft copies of both audit reports that will be published. For members of the public, we do have provided copies of our financial report at the back table. Those are reduced in the number of size from what you'll see ultimately published to save paper. So with the financial statements included, it's about 80 pages. So we've included just the financial statement results, and we'll walk you through that this evening as well. As we move through the slides in front of you, we will reference some page numbers for the board members to follow along. When you open the white folder packet that you have in front of you, the way that our results are packaged is we do have an exit agenda, which is on the left-hand side. That's a summary of everything we'll be discussing today. On the right-hand side, we do have our draft copies of our audit reports, and we do have some tabs where you'll find some key pieces of information that we'll be discussing today. So we'll get started with our financial audit results, which is the first of 3 audits we conducted. Marysville School District is required to undergo an annual financial statement audit. This is done in conjunction with our audit of the school district's federal programs, which the district does expend enough federal program dollars that triggers both a financial and federal audit each year. On this slide, you'll see that the key takeaways from our financial statement audit are we are issuing what's called an unmodified opinion on the district's financial statements. An unmodified opinion is a clean audit opinion. It is not modified for any issues identified. So that means that the financial information included in your statements is fairly stated, materially correct, and a reader can place reliance on that information. We do conduct our audits in accordance with governmental auditing standards, and we also take a look at the district's adherence to the school district accounting manual when compiling those financial statements as well. As part of our audit of the financial statements, we also take a look at the district's underlying control processes or the procedures that your staff go through to prepare those financial statements. Audit standards do require that we communicate to you if we identify any issues or deficiencies in those control processes, which could lead to a financial misstatement in those final financial statements. You'll see on the slide in front of you that we did not identify what's called significant deficiencies or material weaknesses with respect to the financial figures or preparation of the financial statements. That's a good result. That's what you want to receive. We also identified no instances of non-compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, or agreements that could have a material effect on the audited financial statements. So overall, the financial statements did have a clean opinion, and we were able to place reliance on those financial figures. However, if we can move to the next slide, you'll see that our audit will include wording regarding the district's financial condition. Audit standards require auditors to assess the financial health of governments both at the fiscal year end of your financial statements, which is August 31st, 2023, but also we are required to evaluate the district's ongoing ability to meet financial obligations for a minimum of 1 year past your financial reporting period. And we also will sometimes continue to look at the current status of the district's financial condition through the date of our report date, which is today. You'll see that this wording is included in the district's financial report as we identified items that we need to bring to your attention with regard to the district's financial health. Audit standards require that we use this specific wording, so there's not an opportunity to customize this wording. This is wording that is directly required by audit standards. Now, this paragraph does refer to a note in the district's audited notes to the financial statements. This note provides additional information on the district's ongoing efforts to work through its financial condition and all of the different things that you have been working on collectively to improve your financial condition. When this report is published, it will include the full notes to the financial statements, and one minor correction, it will actually be note 18 once it's published on our website. So with that, we do have more details surrounding this paragraph, and those are communicated in an audit finding. So we will walk through the details of the audit finding. I believe that's on the previous slide, one slide previous. There you go. So for those looking in the financial report, you can find the details of the audit finding beginning on page 6 of that report. We do have a tab reference for our board members that you can go right to the financial condition finding. And in this issue, what we did was we began by looking at the district's financial health as of August 31st, 2023. When we looked at the district's reported general fund balance, we noticed that it had declined about 50% from the previous year, just under $10 million decline. That figure was what that led to was a reduction in the district's ability to fund expenditures that could come up in the future. So what we saw was the district at the end of August 31st, 2023 could cover about 18 days of average operating expenditures. But we further looked at that figure all the way through June of 2024 and identified that that figure continued to decline as well. So as of the most recent reports that we were able to see that that number was actually a negative fund balance in the general fund of about 4.98 million, which equates to about covering negative 11.6 days in average operating expenditures. We understand that the district is working closely with OSPI, and in August 2023, the district was entered into binding conditions with the completion of its budget for the 2023-2024 school year. With the efforts of binding conditions, there's additional oversight over the district's financial statements, and it does introduce additional opportunities for the district to potentially leverage future apportionment funds or, have different opportunities to improve its condition. However, as auditors, we are required to note this in our report and share with you that there are concerns with the district's financial health as of the end of the fiscal year end, August 31st, and all the way through current June 2024, which we were able to see those financial reports. Additional items that we did take a look at was the district's use of short-term financing, including some borrowings from the Capital Projects Fund, as well as the apportionment advances, and as well as additional factors that we became aware of after conducting our audit, which were changes in key personnel overseeing district operations and some changes in the district's insurance, which could increase the cost of insurance once you finalize your decisions on the new provider. So this is all detailed out in the finding. As far as the cause of this issue, we have worked through a number of offerings that the district has reported to us. We understand that a double levy failure in 2022, as well as the end of COVID era funding, has all played a part into the district's current financial position. We also understand the district has had some declining enrollment over the past decade that has also impacted the dollars that the district receives each year. As an effect of the district's current financial condition, the district is at increased risk that it may not be able to meet financial obligations as they come due. And if enrollment continues to decline, it could also impact the district's ability to repay those short-term borrowings. And then lastly, as the district is currently in binding conditions with the Financial Oversight Committee, if the district is unable to satisfy the terms of the binding conditions agreement, the ultimate item that could have happened is dissolution of the district. So these items are something that, as Kelly mentioned, are serious and significant for our state auditor, and we want to make sure that we identify these in our audit report. And our recommendation is that the district continue to work with OSPI and the educational service districts and work on meeting the terms of the binding conditions agreements, as well as improving the district's financial health. We will take a moment to answer questions at the end of our conference, so we'll come back to this if you have questions, but just know that this is the details of our audit issue. And the district has provided a response to this, which will also be included in our audit finding. Moving along in the PowerPoint, you'll see that in addition to our financial audit results, we are required to communicate to you if there are any material misstatements that were corrected during the course of our audit. There were none, which is a good thing. No large items. We did have some small items that were identified during the course of our audit that remain uncorrected at the end of our engagement. This is very common in our audits of financial statements and does not impact our ability to issue an unmodified opinion. Those are detailed at the end of your exit agenda packet on the left-hand side of your white folder. In addition, we are also required to take a look at a couple items in relation to our financial audit. And the first is whether there is any opportunity for positions of management involved in financial reporting to potentially override existing controls. We did evaluate that risk as part of our audit, and we did not identify any opportunities where that occurred or appeared likely to occur. And then the last item you see on the slide here is the district was required to implement new accounting pronouncements that were included in the accounting manual. This specific accounting pronouncement has to do with SBITA arrangements or your IT information technology agreements that could have an ongoing liability if the district were to lease technology software licenses for more than a year. We evaluated the district's reporting of that to make sure that it is included in the financial statements correctly and noted no concerns with that implementation. And with that, we're going to move on to the second audit result, our federal grant compliance audit. Kirk?
Thank you, Christina. All right, so I'll cover the next two types of audits that we performed here at Marysville School District. The first audit, as Christina mentions, the federal grant compliance audit. Obviously, the Marysville School District receives lots of federal funding for its students, and part of the requirements of receiving that federal funding is to have an audit to make sure that all the different compliance requirements are followed when spending those funds. So the goal of a financial state or our federal grant compliance audit is to issue an opinion over each of the programs that we have to review. And so the good news is that for most of the programs we looked at, we were able to issue a clean, unmodified opinion on those programs. There was one program that we did have to issue a modified opinion and an adverse opinion. But really that's just one program of the 7 that we had to audit this year. And something to highlight for school districts is usually when we have to audit federal programs at school districts, typical year might be 1 program, maybe 2 or 3. We had to audit 7 programs at Marysville this year. That's an extremely high number. And mainly this was due because of all the different COVID funds that were received by the district. It wasn't due to Marysville specifically. It was really due to these COVID funds that had federal rules behind them about requiring them to be audited, even if they had been looked at in prior years, or some of these programs that the district were spending hadn't been audited for a period of time, so we needed to look at them. So 7 programs was a lot. Clean opinion for 6 of those programs. 1 had that adverse opinion. We also, when we looked at these programs, we're pleased to report on the internal controls. We did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses for 6 of those programs, and we noticed no instances of non-compliance that we had to report. On the next slide, we do list the 7 different programs that we had to audit. As I mentioned, some of these had to be audited because of the COVID-19 requirements, and some just because of the being audited periodically. But because we had to audit these 7 programs, it's about 76% of all federal funding for Marysville School District. So really a lot of coverage this year. All right, so the issue we did identify was with the Emergency Connectivity Fund. And if you want to look at the details of that issue, we do have a finding on page 11. But a little background on Emergency Connectivity Fund. Emergency Connectivity Fund was a brand new program for COVID. It was established by the federal government in May 2021. And really by October 2021, just a few months after being established, Marysville was already spending money. And the reason why is because the big message from the federal government for this program was get the money out quick. They wanted to establish this funds, get money out quick so districts could start purchasing computers and IT equipment for students that needed it. One big thing with that is that when this program's established and the money is going out quick and the direction is spend the money quick, it does sometimes cause some confusion. And so the FCC, who is the leading agency behind this grant, did follow up with different guidance for the district, such as frequently asked questions, rules of order documents, common misconception documents, and other documents that were continually updated so that districts could get further clarifications on questions on how to use this. But one big thing that really was from the beginning was unmet need. And what that meant is the FCC really wanted districts to really think about an unmet need for children. You know, what would the unmet need be for Marysville School District students? And basically, how could the district purchase equipment that would fulfill that unmet need, identify those specific students that had that and purchase equipment for those students? So when we looked at the documentation that the district had for us, we were unable to see specifically how the district defined unmet need. Our understanding was the district used the funds this year in the 2022-2023 school year to purchase a computer for every single secondary student. So they used student enrollment for the figures and purchased a computer for every student. But by the time it came around to passing out the funds or the computers to all the different students, there was about over 500 extra computers that were unable to be passed out because of either declining enrollment or because of the students maybe just requested not to accept one. So the big issues is we were unable to identify the unmet need that was defined by the district, and we were unable to see when the district did pass them out, which students had that specific defined unmet need. And then the extra computers as well. So because of the lack of documentation over this, we are required to report these issues, which we did in the finding, and we're required to question those costs as well. So the next steps for this program is really we send these results to the FCC, and then they will work with the district to determine, you know, what are the next steps? Are there additional procedures the district needs to do to show the unmet need for students? Is there additional work, additional things that can be done, or what would be the next steps? So the biggest takeaways that we would like the district to know is For future grants that are maybe brand new, if there's any like unclear wording or anything like that, please reach out to your granting agencies, ask for further information, ask questions, get that information in writing, because we definitely acknowledge that for this program, there were definitely concerns with not enough detailed guidance. And to kind of show that, we did in your packet include a letter that our state auditor, Pat McCarthy, wrote last year to the FCC, basically explaining that we did feel that there was a lack of detailed guidance indicating the type of reports that would be required. So that is in your packet in case you'd like to review that. All right, so we'll continue on to the next slide here. That was the federal grant compliance audit. The next audit we performed was an accountability audit, and we do these accountability audits every year at Marysville School District. But an accountability audit is really to look at the district's compliance with state laws, your own compliance with your own internal policies and procedures, and just making sure really the district is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So so with that in mind, obviously we can't look at everything here at the district. If we tried to look at everything, we would be here year round. And I don't think your finance staff would like that. So we do some risk-based procedures. We review the meeting minutes, review different, do some analytical procedures, and basically pick the highest risk areas that we feel are the most important to be looking at. So the good news is the areas we did look at, we did find the district complied with all laws, any kind of internal policies and procedures, and really safeguarded public resources. The areas that we did select to review are up on the screen in front of you. So just a couple highlights for payroll, just looking at leave balances, accruals, looking at different pay adjustment approvals. So just looking at how payroll is processed here at the district and making sure that any kind of adjustments are supported. Other areas that are up there, I won't go into too much detail. I know like the use of restricted funds and supplemental contracts. These are areas we look at every single year at the district. This is all because of the McCleary Act and just requires us to look at different areas annually to make sure the district is in compliance with some of those kind of background accounting requirements. So with that, that's all we really had for the accountability audit. I'll pass off to Wendy and she can talk about the next steps.
All right. Great. Thanks so much, Kirk. So real quickly, before we conclude tonight's presentation, just wanted to let the district inform the district that both the reports that we discussed here this evening, the accountability report, as well as the financial statement, federal grant compliance report, will be issued on our website after tonight's presentation. So it will be available to the public. District management and the governing body are able to sign up for email notifications when Marysville School District reports are issued on our website. And once the reports are released, we do have an audit survey. So if you would take some time to provide us any feedback that you may have, it would be greatly appreciated. Next slide, please. Quick closing remarks. The audit costs that we had estimated for this engagement are in line. The actual costs are in line with what we had estimated and provided to the district at the beginning of the audit. The district's next audit is for fiscal year end August 31st, 2024. It'll take place in early 2025 for the 3 audit scopes that you see here on the screen, similar to the 3 audit areas that we discussed this evening. An estimate for next year's cost is also included in your exit conference packet, which is the lead sheet on the left-hand side of your white folder. Next slide, please. And so I just want to take a quick moment, I think on behalf of Christina, Kirk, and Kelly, like Kirk had mentioned earlier in this presentation, there were 7 major federal programs that our team had to review this year. And that involved a lot of interactions with several members of various departments at the district. And each of the staff that we had interacted with were pleasant and professional to work with, very responsive to our federal grant compliance requests. And so we really just want to extend a thank you and appreciation to the district and your team. We've got a couple names here highlighted for the finance and technology services and categorical programs departments, but please extend our appreciation to them. And at this time, next slide, we're going to just open it up for questions for the district.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll start off with the other board members and then I'll wrap it up.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for being here and thank you for the work put into this audit. I know at least I've seen some of you a couple of times during the audit process. I also wanted to be sure to recognize district staff. As you've noted, there's been a lot of information to gather and a lot of programs to go through. So I wanted to be sure and thank those folks as well. Thank you for covering the FCC piece. I know it's something that was brought to our attention last year. And it's something that a number of school districts across the state have been working with the FCC on. I guess a question that I have is when does that, since that spending was 2021 and this is an audit for last year,
Mhm.
when does that drop off, so to speak?
I can answer that since I spoke to that. So the first round of funding was 2021. The district purchased computers for the elementary grades. What we looked at for this 2022-2023 school year was the computers purchased for the secondary grades. So that's why it rolled
see.
into this last audit. But I believe it's done. I don't believe the district has spent any more funds, so we shouldn't have this repeated again for next audit. So,
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then on the fiscal side, obviously, given our current financial condition, not obviously what we want to see, but not entirely unexpected. And I guess I'm curious, since you guys get to go into multiple districts, both across the state, but I think probably here, more Snohomish County, I'm curious about the trends that you're seeing. Obviously, our fund balance is not the healthiest, but it's my understanding that a lot of districts are also experiencing declining fund balances. And so I guess I'm just curious from your perspective, what you're seeing.
So definitely across the state and frankly in other states, I know other state auditors have also acknowledged there's definitely financial challenges. There's a declining enrollment, as we've all spoken to, the shrinking federal funds, increased costs with regard to salaries, and other cost of living increases that districts are facing. So no doubt we are seeing that. We're seeing it result in a lot of layoffs of staff across the different school districts, closing of school districts. Schools in their districts. And there are a handful, and I know OSPI is here and they could speak to it better probably, but there is a handful of districts in the state that are in binding condition like your district. However, your district is the only one in financial oversight status and the only district we've issued a going concern opinion on. The last district we've done that for was Vader School District, I think in 2007, and ended up dissolving. So we are extremely concerned. As I said, State Auditor McCarthy is concerned, alarmed with your status right now. And so we strongly encourage, again, your close working with OSPI and DSD.
Thank you. I appreciate the information. And I think I certainly speak for myself, but the intent is obviously to continue working closely with OSPI and the ESD. We've appreciated the partnership.
Any
I
questions?
don't have any questions.
So thank you for being here and doing this exit report. I too have worked with a couple of you through this audit. I had a question about the emergency connectivity fund. When I read Pat McCarthy's email to the FCC, it says, as we became aware of the scope of the confusion in our state, can you expand on what the scope of that confusion was? Has this impacted every school district in Washington or?
Yeah, so we did audit emergency connectivity fund at many school districts starting last year. It was an issue, I would say, at many school districts, but not all. There were some school districts that definitely kept better documentation and had better processes than others. But the biggest issue is again defining that unmet need and knowing specifically how much documentation to keep to really support the purchase of computers. So that was really the main piece of it. Many school districts, I don't know the exact number, but I believe we issued around 40 findings last year, and I don't know the number this year, but it was a lot of them are repeating it this year. So.
Thanks. And I appreciate that that's going to drop off next year. I know that, I think we heard the same thing last year about this finding and, that's pretty much all the questions I had. I mean, you all laid out the audit findings, quite well. And again, in my time with working with, the two of you through this audit, I don't really have any further questions. I appreciate, the information that you've provided.
Thank you.
So. Nobody else has any questions. And I think, again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mhm.
The next step, we're gonna have the OSPI financial oversight presentation and public hearing. This is gonna be presented by TJ Kelly, the Chief Financial Officer of OSPI. Hey, TJ. I think you can introduce your team.
Good evening. My name is TJ Kelly. I'm the Chief Financial Officer at OSPI. I'm here tonight to give an update of the Financial Oversight Committee's initial work and look at the current financial situation within the Marysville School District. And specifically as it looks towards defining whether or not the budget for the 24-25 school year complies with the binding conditions letter and the updates to that letter that we are now operating under a common understanding goal of and a kind of a shared goal of getting the district out of binding conditions and back to a financially sustainable position. So I'm going to go through about 10 PowerPoint slides here, setting a little bit of context and then sharing the initial observations of the committee. We are intentional in calling them observations. There's nothing in this presentation that defines conclusions or outcomes. The process is designed for us to come here tonight, present observations, get the community an opportunity to participate in a public process, and then Superintendent Rakedahl will receive that information at the end of the month and make a decision. So next slide, please. Or do I control that up here? Next one, please. So as I stated, the Financial Oversight Committee's objectives are to assess whether the district's current 24-25 school year budget aligns with the binding conditions agreement and the two-year plan that was approved to be in compliance with those agreements that the district submitted to OSPI in May. Assess whether the district has the processes and structures in place to execute the proposed budget, receive feedback from the Marysville community, and then make recommendations to State Superintendent Chris Rakedahl. And again, throughout the presentation, for purposes of condensing language, committee is referred to as the Financial Oversight Committee is referred to as the committee. Next slide, please. These are the members of the Financial Oversight Committee. Myself, Ramon Alvarez, here from OSPI, and then we have Cassidy Probert from ESD 101 in Spokane, and then Lisa Matthews here is a non-voting member from your local ESD 189. So a lot of conversation about the state's role with financially insolvent districts or financially challenged districts over the last year or so. So essentially we put this graphic together to try to describe what that looks like. And on the left-hand side, you'll see financial solvency is no OSPI oversight. And those are districts that have balanced budgets, positive fund balance. They're navigating their challenges, but they're doing so without having any red flags that we or the local ESDs need to take a look at. And then you go from that to financial monitoring, binding conditions, financial insolvency, financial oversight, which is currently where the Marysville School District is, and then potentially enhanced financial oversight, and then school district dissolution. And again, as we move from left to right on that graphic, the ability of OSPI to communicate with and essentially intervene or approve specific transactions that the school district makes in their budget becomes greater. Next slide, please. So this is just some background. The Financial Oversight Committee has met a couple times already. Tonight is August 5th. There's going to be a 2-week period after this meeting for which members of the public can submit in writing to us their comments and feedback. And then we're going to provide all that information to the state superintendent for a recommendation on continuing on financial oversight or moving into enhanced financial oversight or other possible actions as of or no later than August 30th. So the factors that led to the district originally being placed on binding conditions, a lot of these were, some of these, the context of the fiscal situation was set by SAO and some of the prior comments. But the loss of the local levy revenue and for the 2023 school year without timely corresponding reductions in expenditures was certainly a factor. We know about the COVID relief funding not being accessible beyond September of 24. And then grant programs where funding was reduced or eliminated for the 23-24 school year, but expenditures were not also reduced. So these were some factors that were identified in the original binding conditions letter that we sent the district back in August of last year. That was our understanding and our observations of essentially what led to the district being placed on binding conditions initially. Next slide. So areas of progress, when the committee meets and we look at the district's financial situation and things that have happened since originally being placed on binding conditions. So the community rallied and passed a levy in 2023, which is a positive. The district leadership has engaged with local consultants who are focused on budget development, financial data quality, internal controls, and effective budget implementation. District leadership has been responsive to the data requests of the committee. And the committee and the district have a common understanding on an issue with how the district accounts for and budgets employee benefits. Now, this was our assessment of that issue when we walked out of our meeting last week. If the district has learned more, we'll have those conversations in our next financial oversight committee meeting. But these are some areas where we think there are some positive things happening here that can start to turn this situation around. Next slide. Some of the challenges. So the staff turnover in key fiscal and human resources positions that have no previous experience in K-12. Now, this is not an indictment on the individuals. They may be successful. I don't want to make this seem like the district made a mistake in hiring these individuals. This is simply a statement of saying that K-12 finance in Washington is unique and complex, and therefore it's just takes individuals, regardless of their professional background, a little bit of time to kind of understand the nuances of the prototypical school model, the levy structure, and all of that other stuff. The district lacks the process, structure, and tools to effectively execute a budget plan. And we made that assessment based on what we saw in the 23-24 school year due to the fiscal staff prioritizing efforts towards identifying issues with the 23-24 school year budget for much of the fall. The capacity and the staff was limited to developing a cohesive budget plan for 24-25 in a timely manner. So when we look at what happened in the fall and some of the corrections that were made with the budget extension that corrected the original fund balance, and then we went through the progression of the binding conditions meeting last fall. We spent a lot of effort on defining and solving for this school year. That from the committee's perspective, it created a challenge in our ability to pivot and transition to what the 24-25 school year was going to look like. Next slide. So general fund borrowing, So this is a observation of concern. And as I talked about at one of the on the prior slides, when we talk about districts that are financially solvent, but there are red flags, this is a red flag where if the district continues to pay general fund expenditures with capital projects money, those funds must eventually be returned to the capital projects fund to be used for their original intended purpose as approved by the voters. So at some point in time, the district's going to lose the ability to have that as a resource for them to cover general fund expenses. The district must be at a 5% fund balance and have positive sustainable financial plan by November of 26 to exit binding conditions. And the only way to build fund balance is for expenditures to be less than revenue on an ongoing basis until target fund balance is achieved. So it's gotta be a situation where your revenues are in excess of your expenditures in order to build that fund balance up to where it was before you experienced your double levy failure. So the committee noted that the district's expenditures in the July 10th budget for 24-25 are understated by a considerable amount. We don't list an amount here right now because we're working with school district staff to figure out the data that we need to pull into that conversation to decide what that number is and therefore where how much other areas of the budget need to be reduced for it to maintain its position of being balanced. And that's similar to, or basically what I said there is bullet point number 2. The data that we're waiting on from the district, which is basically an update of data that you guys gave us. So again, the district is being responsive. It's just there are changes to the data set that are going to inform our understanding of what that target number is with respect to how off benefits are within your current budget structure, which means there has to be a reduction of expenditures elsewhere to keep that target fund balance position. And then the committee cannot confidently assess the remainder of the budget until the salary information is updated. So as with most organizations, salary and benefits are 80 to 85% of your cost. So until we can see truly where those salaries and benefits are coming into your budget and what programs are being affected and what schools the costs lie at and kind of see that total picture, is we're not going to be able to target and say, okay, we think you need to reduce this much money in order for your budget to remain balanced. One of the things the Financial Oversight Committee can do, but is not prepared to do yet, is to put together an alternate financial plan for the district and basically say that you have your budget for the 24-25 school year and 25-26, and that you have a trajectory to exit binding conditions, which is required by our agreement. And then if the Financial Oversight Committee deems it to be necessary, we can put an alternative plan together that takes some additional data and steps in projecting how the district can get to where they need to be. But I do want to state very clearly at this point in time, we are not at the stage of the oversight process where the state legislature would allow OSPI to come in and dictate specific decisions. So we are not at the point in the process where we can come in and say, Marysville School District, you must eliminate this program or reduce this expense. So that's key information for you as a school board and for the public to know that this is a continued partnership and that we're working towards common understanding and common objectives that will achieve the goal. Next slide, please. So again, the public comment period will start tonight for those that are in person, and then public comments can be submitted in writing with that email, foc@k12.wa.us. Any comments submitted by 5 p.m. on August 19th will be shared and read by the committee. And then the public comments and the additional fiscal assessment of the committee will be provided to Superintendent Rakedahl on August 27th with the goal of having a decision about continued financial oversight or enhanced financial oversight by the end of the month. Next slide. So wraps up the quick overview of where we are now, so I will pause for questions.
Oh, good afternoon. I guess one of the questions that I have is having a clear understanding of the borrowing from capital projects funds, because the state has made law changes where other school districts are doing just that. And so I guess they're not in binding conditions yet. So I just kind of have an understanding of, I guess, moving through that. So we have a lot of other school districts that are borrowing from their capital projects funds to move them through their financial issues that they're having with their balance. And Marysville's doing that, but yet we're still in enhanced binding conditions. So I'm just curious about.
Sure.
the nature of that.
So it's becoming more common now than it has been in the past, but districts have been able to borrow from capital projects as a short-term finance resource going forward, or in the past, and they continue to do so now. We're seeing more of that now statewide, which is a concern for us. When we look at the borrowing and the apportionment advances and some of the other mechanisms to solve cash flow solutions, it's more prevalent now than it has been in the past. To get to your direct question, the legislature did pass a law that basically said that districts can offset a balance in their general fund by borrowing from another fund for a 2-year period. And that period was fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25. Now, from an accounting perspective, it doesn't change anything. When you borrow money, it comes into the receiving funds as a liability, not cash. So you're not actually increasing fund balance. So all this is doing is essentially allowing districts a limited amount of time to avoid entering into binding conditions by submitting a negative financial statement to OSPI, just like they would if they were going on binding conditions, and then attaching a letter that basically says, we're taking advantage of the state law that passed to avoid essentially the label of binding conditions for a period of a year. But it is a mechanism of avoidance. It's not a mechanism of how to exit, because again, to exit binding conditions, you have to meet a target fund balance, and loan proceeds are not fund balance. So it's a law that was a little challenging for us to navigate, and I think we had a lot of conversations to figure out how to move forward. So it is an opportunity there, but it's an opportunity to avoid entering into binding conditions, not exiting binding conditions.
I don't have any questions at this time.
Do we need to open the hearing?
Yeah, we've got, as soon as we're done with our questions, we'll have 30 minutes of public hearing. So I think you would much rather hear from the public. I do appreciate, I joined in on that meeting on the 30th. And you and your team laid out what you laid out with us tonight quite well. So I don't have any further questions for you. I think if you don't mind, I can let the public know how we're gonna proceed with the public hearing. I think, so our public hearing at this time will be conducted similar to a public hearing in a regular session. So we'll have 30 minutes during this work study for public hearing. And since we want the Financial Oversight Committee to have kind of a diverse range of public hearing, we'll still stick with the 3 minutes per person. And then if there's a combined two or more people, then max time will be 6 minutes for those individuals.
Hey, so Connor,
Mhm.
I wanted to check with you about when we needed to open the hearing, but I did have a couple quick questions.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
And I wanted to thank you, TJ, for being here and all of the work that you've done with Marysville. seen you several times on Zoom and several times in person, and I appreciate the work of the committee. And I guess, and I'm curious about the trends you're seeing across the state. I feel like we might be a little bit of a bellwether because we had that levy failure, so it just put us in a different spot than other districts that are now seeing some of the same things are in, we've experienced maybe first some of the things that other districts are experiencing now. So I'm curious
Mhm.
if you could just talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So it is, obviously, there are factors that are affecting districts statewide. One of them is access to the federal COVID relief money going away. Enrollment continues to remain flat. In some areas of the state, it's picking up, but it's not returning to the pre-pandemic growth rate that we saw. And then inflation is a big one, and the legislature gave a little bit more money to school districts for material supplies and operating costs last year to help offset those inflation costs. But I think with the ESSER money going away, enrollment not bouncing back, and inflation are the three factors that districts are really, really struggling with now. And then, of course, you add the double levy failure, and it really forces some decision-making that maybe hasn't needed to be considered before. I will say that currently, right now in the state, we do have two other districts that are entering a calendar year with no levy. So there have been two other double levy failures in the state recently. So I think this is just kind of a confluence of economic factors, enrollment that may continue to remain down as we kind of work through the impacts of the pandemic years. But yeah, it's a unique time financially for school districts right now.
Appreciate that. And then because I have the expert here, take advantage of that a little bit.
Are you looking, Pat? No, I'm just kidding.
So, and I know you're not the policymaker, you
Mhm.
implement the policies, so,
Sure.
but as I was looking through some of the financial reports, I think our apportionment, outline, one of the things that I noticed was there's this special ed penalty, at least that's what I thought that I saw. So is there a penalty for exceeding that 13.5% of a population? That
Yeah.
qualifies for special education? Because I know that we've been working on,
Yeah.
upping the cap, and we definitely have a significant population in Marysville that needs special education services. I'm curious about that.
Sure. I wouldn't define it as a penalty. I would just say that the state legislature puts a limit on the percentage of resident enrollment students that can be eligible for funded special ed services through that formula. And then if you have an individual high-cost student, or you have safety net opportunities through communities of need, which essentially is defined as those communities above that 13.5%. So if you at Marysville serve 15% of your resident student enrollment through an IEP for special education services, then you should be able to come in and make a request for some of that pool of safety net funds that the legislature provides every year to try to help districts make up that difference.
Okay, so it might be helpful if I look at it more in totality. I just saw a negative $600,000 number, and of course that
Yeah.
anytime you see a negative, it's like,
Yeah, I think
So-
if you want to send me the reference, we can
perfect.
work through a more detailed explanation, but
Okay.
on the surface, I think that's the answer to your question. If there's more to it, we can unpack it later.
I appreciate that. And then I, again, just taking advantage of the fact that you're here. So when the state provides, IPD, my assumption is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that IPD is provided based on the prototypical model. So for ease, let's say, based on the prototypical model, we should have 500 employees overall. We have 600. I'm assuming we get IPD for the 500 that the prototypical model says, and then that we would pick up the IPD for the additional 100.
Yes, that's accurate.
Okay. And then additionally, it would be the 3.7% based on what the prototypical model salary says that it should be, whatever the position is, right? Whether it's principal, teacher, or superintendents, not necessarily what we pay. True, is that?
So you lost me a little bit on that second question.
Okay.
So maybe go back and let's try again.
So I'm assuming the 3.7% is based on what the prototypical model, because the says that the average pay should be in the district, right?
Right.
So if we pay more than what the state says, the average custodian should cost X many
Mhm.
dollars, or the average school nurse should cost X many dollars, and we pay above that, we pay the difference, right?
Yeah, so the state salary and benefit, the state salary is based on the statewide average rate. And when it was originally calculated, it was using actual rate of pay from the S275 staffing report. But that was, sorry, I had to.
Oh, you're good. Okay.
Um, but that was from the transition. That was back when they did 2242 and 6362. So they actually did an analysis of what the average pay was, right? And then that was the basis of that factor that now is the CIS, the certificated instructional, the classified, and the admin salary allocation. And then on top of that, if you get it, you have regionalization.
Mhm.
And then you kind of go from there. So the model right now is structured on an assumption of statewide average salary times regionalization factor, and then the number of units provided in the prototypical model. Now, if you hire above the units in the prototypical model, based on the legislative definition, that's enrichment and therefore should be covered from levy proceeds or other fund sources.
Okay.
Did that help?
It did. And
Okay.
I'm resisting asking more questions.
Okay.
I guess I'm just curious, when does that base rate get updated regularly by the legislature, or is there like
So they have so the regionalization factors are by law needing to be updated every 4 years. I don't recall off the top of my head as if there's an actual salary rebase.
okay, right,
Like if there's legislatively a point in time where the salaries, the legislature has to go back in and do comparable wage data analysis or something else to say, okay, inflation hasn't kept up with reality and therefore we're going to do a bump to basically reestablish the baseline.
right, okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I appreciate the
problem.
information.
All right, we're gonna get kicked off on the public hearing portion. Jane, quick question. Do we have a sign up sheet for the work study public hearing or just the regular session? Okay. Okay, so you have it in front of you. Okay. I'll hand it over to you then.
Right. So looks like we have Lori Mickleberry first. Next one. Apologies. Kelly Nudrum. Sorry if I'm not reading handwriting correctly. No? Okay. Nancy Harvey.
Hello? Okay, Nancy Harvey, community member. Kristen Michael has already touched on what I wanted to talk about. It makes me very angry that the legislature or the state does not adequately fund special ed here in Washington. If we have 19% of our students as special ed, all 19% should be funded by the state. And so it makes me angry that that is not happening. We shouldn't have to apply to a safety net to make up the difference between 13.5% and 19, or if it's going to 15%. Here we go, we need the safety net again, and there's no guarantee that we're going to get that money if I understand it correctly. So I'm just standing here to say that I don't like the way schools are funded. That $600,000 or $625,000 that came off of some funding that you're going to help explain. That's enough to keep a school open. And that's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ray? Sheldon. Thank you, sir.
Oh, this is gonna be a good one. We get to a point, we're counting on you, the state, to overlook to see how we're doing things, and we haven't done anything for quite a while. You've only gone back you scratch back more, we'd see it's kind of an ongoing thing. It's like if we give a child or grandchild $100, make sure you bring back me the change. Hey, you're not gonna get any change back. This is, you ask later, what? I've already spent it. But when it came to my ballot this morning, I was a little frustrated and upset. And of course, I saw your bosses there, the director, but we have said we're going to do something and we haven't quite done it yet. How long before it gets too bad that we do something? I mean, we're counting on you. These people behind me, their grandkids, their kids are counting on you. If we don't get in the right direction, we'll be in this hole forever. And I'm sure they'll all be upset with me, but it's the truth. We have to do something. I mean, I'm sure, yes, 600 or 500 stunts, and we pay for the other 100 we got to make up. We've been doing that for a long time. And we got to be able to tell the other people, and you got to have this, these people aren't going to stand up and tell the local people here, enough's enough, and no one's going to get any more money. Is this company be able to stand up and say, no more? My gosh, 3% of 180 million is way up there. It's 6 million. And it's going to just climb. And if we don't say something quick and be directive about it, it's going to just keep rolling. And I know these people, they don't have that in their system. Could I? I ran twice and got booted out because everyone knew that I was a person that would say, this is it. I mean, we set policies on 12% saving in the bank, and everyone says, and my wife is good on it. Hey, we got $2,000. Can I go get my nails done? My hair and everything else, and it's gone. If we do the same thing, we'll never catch up. And we're the first ones on your book. And everyone's watching how you people are going to be able to stand. I mean, this is a new policy that you've got to do. And if we don't do this policy just right, everyone's going to come running to you. And I understand that, borrow money. Well, actually, they're borrowing money from us to be able to pay their, but if we do the budget right, they shouldn't have to borrow for a month, 2 months. I hope you could say enough is enough.
That's all that's on my sheet. So are we?
Yep.
Sorry, that's kind of fun to see. Hi, excuse me. My name is Becky Roberts and I'm the MEA president. And the first thing I want to say is thank you in your PowerPoint for saying in there that there were not appropriate cuts made. That is like the first acknowledgement of that I've seen in recent history. Nobody's ever said, it's always been not enough funding, the levy, blah, 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 blah. All of those things are true, but nobody's ever acknowledged that we didn't make enough cuts. We didn't make enough cuts. One of the things I want to address is staffing. I looked at the proposed budget and for certificated staffing, it was like at 685. And that's like 28 below what it was projected to be last year. And I understand that certificated staffing is all certificated people. the district does not have their staffing figured out for fall. We start in less than 1 month. I'm starting to get pretty anxious about all of this. According to my records, and I keep track of all the retirements and resignations and all the people who were cut and all the non-continuings. From last year, we have lost 82 teachers, 82. And we have also, according to my records, hired approximately 7 or 8. They are only hiring in special ed and in CTE, specialized programs. I get it. I get that everybody's nervous about what's going to happen in the fall. That is a far cry from 682 certificated staff. I don't, we have to have school, we have to have staff in place on day 1 when school starts. That is way too many certificated staff to be missing. I don't get that. I don't know how we're going to start school like that. It is not good practice to start school with overcrowded classes, and it's not good practice to start school with subs. The other point I want to make is just some of the extra LAP money. There's extra LAP money and there's extra safety net money that they receive that they have not yet spent, and that is not accounted for. So I would like to see them account for that money. But my main thing is staffing, getting teachers in the classroom and getting ready for fall. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Got about 25 more minutes.
I only saw one sheet up there, so I missed one. I'm Mike Hogan. I'm a local resident of Marysville School District. Prior to binding conditions, I came to the school board and even prior to HIP, even when I got it repaired, and discussed the financial situation. We were talking about being in a very, very bad situation, and didn't even know what binding conditions were, but I know one of the things I spoke to, I came up here and spoke at this point, is when you're at a deficit, when you're at you have no money coming in, or you're at a loss of money, you have to make some of the hard cuts. And I heard they had PowerPoints up here and showing us all kinds of very confusing numbers, saying that the same thing, that we were going to be at a very big loss heading for those binding conditions, not knowing that they were coming on the horizon. My point was, I lived in binding conditions in our family. My wife stayed home with our kids at that point. The boys never knew it, twin boys, but we ended up having one budget, one income home. I teach high school. I was on free and reduced lunch. We lived paycheck to paycheck, but we made some major cuts in our lives and we lived through it. She's back to work, and now I'm ready to retire, and we're doing well. The point of my talk was, you can't continue saying COVID and double levy failure. At the time, it was a triple levy failure, and I had to bring that back, that you failed the levy. It's a one levy failure. You ran it twice, it failed. And we at that point know we've got fewer dollars coming in. And when those fewer dollars at that point, prior to any trouble, at that point, we had no trouble. There was no trouble the trouble was on the horizon. And just like a sailor, you look at the horizon, you see storm clouds, you head for harbor. And we should have made cuts at that point. And we should have started freezing things. And we should have made some major changes in the direction of our school district. And we didn't. And then fast forward a year later, we're still saying, oh, COVID. COVID's done. If I hear someone say COVID again, you might hear me screaming here. You'll probably escort me out. COVID is done. We can't keep blaming it on that or double levy failure. We have to say now, we make the cuts now. And the last thing I was going to say, I won't have to speak on the next part. My wife just sent her letter of resignation. She's retiring. She's gone through kindergarten through high school in this program. She's worked in this school. She's made all the efforts to really make this school district a great school district. Both of our sons, they're twins, graduated from great teachers here at Marysville Pilchuck High School, that I'm going to call it again, the comprehensive high school, not the small learning community. And they graduated from college with 2 degrees cum laude, both of them. I'm very proud of them. They're far exceeded my abilities. The point is, this is a great school district that is losing because now you've got, how many was it? Did I hear 60 people have left, the teachers have left the district? Just the other day, I saw on the list 30. 82 for God. And now we've only filled 7. And we've got school starting in a month. And my wife has sent in her resignation. I've got a letter out in the car that I have to send in so I can cover her through my district for 1 more year before I retire. The point I'd like to make is thank you for being part of the Marysville School District. Crickets. That's what she got. I know of other teachers that have left. Now, I'm not saying, I guess I am saying, you owe teachers that have spent time in here thanks. You owe us as school district residents a little better look at our numbers and our dollars and make those hard cuts. It's going to be hard, and we're going to be back in here screaming. I know that's just it is what it is, but we have to make those cuts. And I know that the X number of people that have left, we're going to have to rehire some of those. The cuts are going to be elsewhere. That's what's going to happen, or it's going to be a shuffle like which with her. The sixth change that she was asked to make in teaching. Anyway, I'm flashing red. I got to go. Thanks.
Good evening. Travis Marsh, Marysville Coaching Association President and teacher and coach at Marysville Getchell High School. Go Chargers! Starting my 26th year here in Marysville. So 2 quick things. I have a question just on, so last year we helped balance or get the budget down by effectively getting rid of overload in our school to a point where we were paying the year before anywhere like at Getchell $20,000 to $30,000 a month in overload. Right? It was a point that the district made with all the principals. They worked very hard at reducing overload throughout all the districts. Now this year it seems like overload is coming back. And my question is, are you aware of that? Because I'm slated to be in overload quite a bit. How is that cost going to affect, right, balancing this budget when we did a good job last year reducing that? Secondly, so when we talk about 13.5% special ed funded, right, is that statewide, correct? Is there a statewide average of special ed, like percentage that, like if you averaged all the districts together? Okay, is that below 13.5%? Because my question is, so the other question would be, are we qualifying? So is it a statewide mandate on how we qualify special ed? Or does that vary from district to district?
I think that's a better question to defer to our special ed director.
Okay.
And we can get you her contact information.
Good.
What I will say is the 13.5% limitation is measured by district, not at the state level.
Okay. Because my question would be then, obviously, right, if we're at 19% or a district has more special ed than say another district that's at 7, 9, 10%, right? I mean, like we've been talking about, funding that 19%, right, could come out of a blanket fund of special ed, right? Lesser districts are getting less money than 13.5. We would be needing to get more. We're at a much higher level, especially if we're all qualifying at the same, right? If districts are qualifying kids differently, then that's a different issue that obviously probably OSBI should take a look at. Because, right, we all should be qualifying the same, and thus, if we are actually have a population that has more special ed, we should be getting funding from the state to take care of that, because we just happen to have a higher population than say another town closer to us, right? We shouldn't be penalized for that. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead. Christine, yeah.
So I'm Christine Cobb, teacher at Pinewood for a little bit longer at least. You know, I hear a lot about ESSER funds and we should have handled it a lot better. Several districts did not use ESSER funds as part of their budget to operate, such as Snohomish. They didn't put that as part of their operating budget. And I'm tired of hearing it. We need to get rid of assistants for admins. I haven't really seen any administrative cuts. I've seen positions added. I've seen assistants added. I've seen positions added in human resources. The brunt of the cuts that have been made have been on the backs of teachers and paras and custodians, the people who are in the trenches, in the schools, working with the students. And the right thing to do is to start to cut at the administrative level. And if we want to talk about the prototypical model, we should probably talk about how much the district has to make up based on what administrative people make compared to the funding they receive for those positions from the state. Additionally, we at one point had a 10% fund balance, which is pretty much all gone because we didn't manage our funds well. Matter of fact, our budget was overspent by, I believe, about $10 million during the 22-23 school year. And then we also exhausted our fund balance. So it seems to me it was more of a problem with spending by district leadership and a problem of not making cuts after a levy failure. Yes, we had a double levy failure, but we should have been able to survive it with the fund balance we had if we had made appropriate cuts and not just on the backs of teachers, paras, custodians, and other people. Instead, positions were added at district leadership levels, and I'm frustrated at all the excuses and the blaming of the community needs to be looked at right here in this building and the choices made here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We got about 10 minutes, so I can probably 3 more speakers. Go ahead. I saw your hand first. And then also we'll have 30 more minutes of public hearing during the regular session.
All right, mine's pretty short. I'm curious about the school closure plan and OSPI's involvement in the school closure plan. What the process is going to be on OSPI's side as far as getting the community's input on these closures. I feel like the school community and the board and the leadership are on 2 different sides as to these closures. I have a feeling if you get community input, you're going to find that it's totally different what the leadership structure is asking for. We're looking at really closing high need schools, low income populations. Liberty is a good example. We've got a high population of low income socioeconomic students who walk to that school, and now they're going to be bused to schools much further away. Same thing with Cascade. And then we've got Totem, which has been a really important hub for our tribal community going there. And we're closing these schools down. I feel like we're taking a temporary emergency and making long-term decisions based on a temporary situation. Closing these schools is going to be permanent. This is years and years and years. This is not like the binding conditions we're in right now, where it's just a temporary, we just need to fix the current situation. I think we need to be looking long-term and how can we fix this situation, but not destroy or tear down our school community in the process. Another thing, coming from another state, I was in Arizona for many years, well, born and raised there, but I worked for a school district that went through something like this. In Arizona, they call it receivership. And the state has a lot more teeth, with the district. They have a lot more oversight, like from the get-go. And I would highly recommend that OSPI and through the legislature, they really consider the whole process, binding conditions, because honestly, it's really lightweight at the beginning. It allows too much control at the district side. I think if the state had a little more control when they came in, we'd probably be out center. We did things like, our weeds were growing tall because we couldn't hire services, to spray the weeds. We didn't have paper towels in our classroom dispensers. I mean, we cut back to the bone, but we got out of debt really, really fast. So I've seen this, I know it works, but you got to make some tough cuts. And honestly, like a lot of people are saying, didn't even feel like we were making cuts. It looked like we were adding when we're in debt, and nowhere does that make any sense. So, thanks.
Thank you very much. Lizette, saw your hand first.
Good afternoon. My name is Suzette Nielsen. I'm a teacher at Pinewood Elementary. I've heard a lot of things tonight, and it just seems like the same thing over and over again that I'm hearing. I just want to point out that our budget problems began and were noted in 2022 when our financial director quit in the middle of the year because he was begging people to start making cuts, and he saw the writing on the wall, and the administration would not listen to him. So he didn't want to be accountable for the mess, which we are now in, which he saw, and he left. And so the financial direction has been really misguided here for a few years, well, 2 years. And I'm concerned about a couple other things. I'm concerned that we lost our insurance coverage, which was a relatively good deal in terms of insurance coverage, that we're now going to be spending a lot more money than the $600,000 that we lose from SPED. It's going to cost us a lot more to secure insurance than that amount that we lost. Also, I'm concerned a little bit about how future lawsuits might play into our budget. Like, I don't know how that works, if we will be responsible because we're going to be sued by some people that got laid off, or not laid off, but I don't know the right term, but they basically were fired. And I know we're going to be sued by the couple of people, so I'm worried that that is also going to take a bite out of our budget, out of our expenditures, and I'd like to know how that works. I don't know if you can answer that. And the levy failure that we did, it was 1 year. We knew about that. Cuts weren't made, even though they were begged to be made. And I feel like the administration here has to answer to that. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, in the very back.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Lynn. I have 2 students in the school district. One is going into 1st grade and one is going into 4th grade. And there's so much to say. My son goes to Liberty, and I want to thank the gentleman for speaking up, because Liberty is a very low income area. We walk our son to school whenever we can. And I don't know numbers, but I would say a significant number, if not most of the students, walk to school. I know that there are families, many of which that don't have a car, or they have a car and it's gone at work while one parent is home with the kids and they don't have an option to take them to school. And by closing that school will negate their ability to help out in the classroom, to be involved at the school, to be involved in activities and field trips and stuff like that. I'm lucky to work. I have a really good job. I work nights, so I'm available during the day. So I get to see the kids and I get to see the parents, and it is an amazing opportunity. My daughter goes to the co-op program at Marshall, and that has also been absolutely amazing, because being involved in the classroom, you see the teachers, you see the kids, you see the amazing work that is done in the schools. You see the kids that are they're smiling, they're happy, they're learning. But it's not always that way. Both of my kids are autistic and they both have been declined or denied an IEP. And I observe a lot. There are a number of community members, the school district, kids that go to the school district or should go to the school district and don't because they have been denied special services that they need to succeed. And so parents, instead of sending their kids to school, are keeping them home because they have that option. Other parents have left the school district because another district has better special ed, has better support services, they have more staff. And all that to say, I also know that cuts need to be made. I know that cuts are very hard to make. Nobody wants anything that they use to be cut or not an option anymore. But I think that there's a lot of information that should be taken into consideration. If we have to close schools, it should be more than just the 3 oldest schools are the schools we're going to close down. And that's what it looks like to me, because they were all listed for the age of the school, and the 3 oldest schools in our district were the 3 listed to be closed. And that's not considering the community and the people and the kids that are involved.
All right, thank you very much. I think that is going to wrap up this public hearing portion for the work study. We're going to begin our regular session in about
May I add one quick thing?
Yeah.
So if you guys had public testimony that was like about technical questions, like school closures, and so not about necessarily Marysville decisions, but if you have technical questions about state law or process, please do email that FOC email inbox and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you for allowing me the interruption.
Yeah, no worries. I'll actually read off the email if you don't have it handy. All right, so that FOC email is foc@k12.wa.us. All right, so we're gonna take a break for about 4 minutes, and then we're gonna pick back up at 6 for our regular session.
Recording stopped.
Downtown. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started.
Recording in progress.
If everyone can take their seats. All right, if everybody could either take their seats or take their conversations outside, that'd be great. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Oh, here you go. All right, we're gonna bring this regular session to order. It is August 5th at 6:03. First order of business is gonna be the flag salute. I'll go ahead and kick us off.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We acknowledge the original inhabitants of this area, the Snohomish people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered, and taken care of these lands. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society. I have approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So I'm going to make a motion to include the appointment of the district area number 4 director as item K number 6.
You want to wait till the end, huh? Let's make it number 1. K1.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
All right, so there was a motion to amend the agenda to include appointment of district area number 4 director and to add that in item K number 1. Is there a second? Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. So when we get to that action item, we'll note that. All right, next up, superintendent's report presented by Dr. Zach Robbins, superintendent.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you to the Washington State auditors for their presentation of the audit exit conference for the audit completed for the 2022-2023 school year. We are pleased that there was a clean opinion on the district's financial statements. We also appreciate the Financial Oversight Committee's presentation and the time they dedicated to hearing from our community members, as well as the assistance that they have provided the district. A reminder to join us for a special summer graduation ceremony for students who completed their graduation requirements beyond the end of the 2024-2025 school year. I'm very happy that we're going to have a summer graduation, and that is my report.
All right, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the communications report, student, staff, or board reports. We're going to start off with the OSPI Financial Oversight Committee report. Mr. TJ.
All right, I do not have a separate report, so I'm gonna just highlight basically 3 or 4 of the PowerPoint slides that we went through and do it at a little quicker pace here. So good afternoon, evening now, I suppose. My name is TJ Kelly. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of OSPI. I have to slow down. I'm here as a representative of the Financial Oversight Committee under the supervision of State Superintendent Chris Rakedahl. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit about the status of the Financial Oversight Committee in respect to its work with Marysville School District. So I'm going to start off on slide 7. There you go. That one looks familiar. So for context, Marysville School District was placed on what the state calls binding conditions in August of 23. And that's because the budget they submitted to OSPI did not have a balanced general fund. And in order for OSPI to accept a budget with a negative fund balance position, the district had to petition to go on binding conditions, which essentially is a agreement between the OSPI, the local ESD, and the district to achieve certain financial benchmarks over the next 2 fiscal years. So slide 7 here says the factors that led to the district originally being placed on binding conditions includes the loss of 1 year of local levy revenue without timely and corresponding reductions in expenditures. The federal COVID relief or ESSER funds will not be accessible after September of 24, and grant programs where funding was reduced or eliminated for the 23-24 school year, but expenditures were not also reduced. So we're going to jump to slide 8. The committee has met 4 times so far and has some observations of progress. So obviously the community rallied together to approve a local levy to fund enrichment activities of the district, which is a positive. The district leadership has engaged experienced local consultants who are focused on budget development, financial plan, data quality, internal controls, and effective budget implementation. And that last one is key, because as it is true in our own lives, if we have a budget without the ability to implement it, the challenge does not go away. District leadership has been responsive to data requests by their committee, and the committee and the district have a common understanding of an issue on how the district accounts for and budgets employee benefits for 24-25. And we're awaiting updated information from the district on how to quantify the fiscal impact of that challenge. Slide 9. Some of the challenges we've observed so far is that staff turnover in key fiscal and human resource positions and the new staff coming in have no previous K-12 experience. And again, this is not to say that these individuals won't be successful ultimately. We certainly hope they do, and we'll support them however we can at the state level. But K-12 finance is complex and is not something that you can just pick up overnight. The district lacks the process, structures, and tools needed to effectively execute a budget plan. And due to the fiscal staff prioritizing efforts towards identifying issues with the 23-24 school year budget for much of the fall, staff capacity was limited when developing a cohesive budget plan was necessary for 24-25. And then we're going to jump to slide 11, please. So next steps, the committee has noted that the district's expenditures in the July 10th budget that were made public and reviewed by the Financial Oversight Committee for 24-25 are understated by a considerable amount. We're waiting on updated information from the district in order to quantify what that amount is. And once we get that data, we'll understand what the salary and benefit picture looks like across the district, which typically runs about 80 to 85% of the overall cost of running the organization. And then we'll be able to have more meaningful conversations about how they approach the rest of their budget situation. But right now, the committee cannot confidently assess the remainder of the budget until we get the salary and benefits information corrected, because it's such a significant portion of the picture. And then if you want to go to slide 12. So based on this brief overview, we're having a public comment period August 5th through the 19th. So starting tonight, you can email the Financial Oversight Committee directly at foc@k12.wa.us. And any comments received by 5 p.m. on August 19th will be shared and read by the committee. The committee will give those comments plus our final recommendations to State Superintendent Chris Rakedall by the 27th of August. And then we'll have a formal decision on whether we progress into enhanced financial oversight, continue on financial oversight, or prescribe a different course of action between the state, the local ESD, and the Marysville School District to ensure that we can exit binding conditions as quickly and as possible, preferably under the well, I'll just stop there. So I think that is it. So that is my abridged version of my presentation earlier in the meeting. So any new questions?
No, thank you very much.
Okay.
If you missed the work study earlier today, it should be posted shortly after our meetings concluded, so you can go back to our website and find that audio visual recording online. And again, just to reiterate, foc@k12.wa.us. If you want to email them with questions, concerns. All right. Next up, it says Board of Directors, District Director for Open Seat Update. We're gonna scratch that since we actually have an action item later tonight about that. After that, upcoming events presented by Jody Runyon, Director of Communications.
Good evening, Dr. Robbins and Board of Directors. Thank you, Ellie, for putting that up on the screen. I have a few exciting things to share tonight. First of all, tomorrow is primary election day, so please remember to vote, everyone. Ellie's put a post up on our Facebook page with the locations of all the ballot drop boxes. I think there's 4. Is that correct, Ellie? 3 or 4? No? Maybe 4. Okay. All right. Well, it's on our Facebook page. I also wanted to point out that August 15th, school offices reopened to the public, which is great. Dr. Robbins already mentioned the graduation event. That's really exciting, and we hope that people will join us at that. The next board meeting is August 19th. And then of note, I just wanted to point out that coming up, there's some events that schools have already posted on their websites, and those are getting posted every day. So we encourage families to check those out and go to the website and see what's happening in our schools prior to the start of school. And that's all I have tonight. We're still in summer, but it's closing in on us very quickly. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. All right, next up on the agenda, we're gonna have the hearing of business of visitors. Much like the work study and our typical regular session, this is gonna be a 30-minute time slot. Each individual gets 3 minutes. They can combine their time for a maximum of 6 minutes. And I will read through the list. All right, first up, I have Mike Hogan. You're first.
Part of mine was spoken to earlier. I'm Mike Hogan. I'm a resident of Marysville School District. A question I had, and I was up a couple of weeks ago with the Marysville Pilchuck greenhouses and the expansion and the cleaning. It's really kind of neat to see. Question I have though is what happened to all the equipment? I see them asking for people to donate. And I know that was a career and technical education site that was purchased for career and technical classes, just like the farm out at on the reservation was. And I don't know whatever happened to all the equipment. I know they had a tractor, they had a stock trailer, they had all the wheelbarrows, they had all of the equipment. And I'm curious what happened to that and where did all that go? And part of the money woes of this district could be restaffing those 2 positions, career and technical teachers teaching science as animal science, biology, plant science, biology. I teach plant science, biology at Stanwood, and enhanced funding coming in to the district. I don't know what happened, how we got to where we were. I just know that the superintendent at the time, when I asked where are those students going to go when you cut these programs from 2 retiring teachers, oh, they'll just be absorbed into the science department. Okay, so now you've got fewer FTE dollars coming in, and you've got students that are hand-on learners. They are not people that will be sitting in a seat for long periods of time. They're people that want to go out and work with their hands and learn about science and science foundational properties. Along with that, the FFA offers leadership opportunities, career practice skills, unbelievable opportunities for those students that are now lost to our students. And so I would really like to see that come back. I know I don't think it's going into a career and technical class. I think it's going to be maybe a science teacher taking it over, which is just a standard FTE. So, you can get some more enhanced monies. That's all.
Thank you very much. Next up, I have Christy Toutfest on my list.
Good evening. I'm Christy Toutfest, community member and staff member for 20-something years. I am a paraprofessional at Liberty Elementary School. Over the last year, I have seen a lot of things that I'm really concerned about as we're going into the district, binding conditions and we're making cuts and things. I just want to bring to the forefront that we have paraprofessionals that are needed. I have done the crossing guards at Liberty for quite a few years. Last year, we had our chief of police come and swear our crossing guards in. It's a great student opportunity and great for leadership and growth. And I'm concerned about, number one, just somebody being in front of the school where the kids are. I don't know if you've driven down 47th, but it's crazy in the morning and in the afternoon when the kids are out there right by the streets. And so consequently, each year we've had one adult at each of the two major crosswalks. And this last year, we've been having teachers help us with greeting the buses and things, but potentially it could be me out there with 400 and something kids crossing the street, and it concerns me. We do have a few buses. I'm concerned at one of our high schools. We heard like the buses drop the kids off and there's nobody there supervising for the first 10 minutes or so. I'm concerned about if my daughter who's 29 was in high school, I would be very concerned and not want her there unsupervised with the other kids. I also want to call attention to the lunchrooms throughout the district. There have been some volunteers in the lunchrooms, and don't get me wrong, that's great. And that will help students. We've had some extra moms come in and they are so great helping other kids. But if your child was choking, would you want a certified staff member who knew what to look for and had been trained multiple times? Or would you like to have a volunteer trying to help your child that was choking? We have some really large lunchrooms, especially at secondary. And my concern is that it's just because it's so loud and there's so many kids, there was a difficult time in getting to a student to even figure out where they were because the students weren't quiet. And I think that just in general, that I want to make sure that student safety is at one of our forefronts. I don't know who's in charge of risk management anymore, but we really need to make sure that our recesses are properly staffed. At recess, there have been places where one person has been in charge of more than 50 students at a time. And I know that if I'm putting a Band-Aid on somebody's knee or helping two students who've just had a conflict and they're trying to hit each other or whatever I'm doing, at any given moment, that my eyes are off the other 50 or more kids. And so I would like us to be very careful when we're staffing and thinking about paraprofessionals and the very important job they do in keeping our children safe. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next on my list, I have Nancy Harvey. Hello, Nancy.
Nancy Harvey, community member. This is a record twice in one meeting. I'm speaking again against closing Totem, and I've listed reasons at other meetings. We have a CTE class. We have a great SPED program. Today, I just want to mention that our school is alive and well, and our band department has gotten a bunch of money to refurbish instruments. there was a $4,000 music Aid Northwest grant, 2,400 from the Marysville Rotary Club, a $5,000 donation from a community member, and I don't have the person's name, $2,541 from MEA weighted overload funds. There was $11,000 that came in from that same community member at another time, and $127.16 for a new parade banner. Our Totem Middle School kids marched in the Strawberry Festival Parade. And while we weren't as fancily dressed as somebody from a rich school district, more prosperous school district, they had matching t-shirts with the Phoenix on the back and that nice banner out front. And our mascot Flame was bringing up the rear. Totem's alive and well, and it's doing great things for our students. And I request again, you don't close Totem.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Next up on my list, I have Austin Ha. Austin.
Hello? Okay. I come up here because I want to talk about Marysville and what it needs. And I think that Marysville right now is in need of a big idea. I talked before about the Dream Big event that was so inspiring to me as a student in the past. And that's all because the problems that we're facing are some of the biggest we've faced in the last decade. The reality is that the district is going through a near-death experience right now. For those that were able to attend the work study, we're just a few steps away from dissolution here. And the community sees it. Folks know that something is wrong. And so, you know, I had the privilege of attending the Marysville Community Coalition event last Thursday. And there were sort of two big themes that popped up. The first one was practical. It was about the budget. Schools are closing, district is on the precipice. And the second is deeper. It's about communication, which gets at the bigger issue and the needs behind that big idea. The issue that we have is, I think, a need for very strong leadership. For a long time, no one has been willing to be vulnerable and to risk spectacularly. And I get the feeling that that comes from a lack of confidence at the leadership level. Those in power are closest to the issues, which means that you can't always do what's popular. The important thing to do is to know what the problems are and find a solution through empathy. And you gain that empathy by being open and being present. So here's what's needed. Leaders who have confidence, who are willing to spend their time thinking through those bigger issues and who fearlessly make decisions even when they're hard. And by the way, that addresses the budget, and more seriously, it addresses the communication. I know that a lot of these things are big ideas and that they're generalities, but I think they'll manifest through your sacrifice as leaders. Weekends reading, nights spent in community spaces, days spent in schools, holidays spent planning and diving deep into the real issues. And so to those in front of me, I ask that you reflect on what your role is and that you ask yourself what is required of you in that role that you hold in this Marysville Toledo community. And I ask that you do that deeply and seriously. Because the hard decisions that you're going to make are going to ripple from the students out to the state. And the sacrifices you will make will show up in the quality of the relationship that you build and that you invest time in building. I guarantee that if you do what's right at the top line, that the bottom line will follow. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up on my list, I have Mr. Ray Sheldon. Hello, Ray.
I can go home soon. The issue that I have, and after reading the bullet a couple times, he's right. When we're getting up to $20,000 per student, you kind of start to worry, where's the money going? 5 years ago, it was $13,000 a student. And I kind of warned everyone a few years ago, it's going to be climbing our budget gonna climb over 200 million, almost $250,000. And what do we have to show for it? I'm not sure. Sometime someone will be able to point that out. I can understand. I've been sitting here for a long time, sitting in back and everything else. And I have nothing but something that the concern that high cap kids need to be heard and seen and stay together. The kids from co-op, Hispanic kids, the Russian kids, they all need help. But then again, everyone kind of knows that really knows my life, that I have 5 grandchildren and 3 are autistic. So I sit back there thinking, I haven't heard anyone have been told we have a new SPED director, and where are we going? You know, many times I've sat back and with hearing crying children of my own children, wondering what's going to happen to them. And I brought this many times. I go to parties and everyone else. You look at the parents, they're so old and they're getting tired, but they don't know what's going to happen to their kid when it comes time for them to go. And you promise me that my grandchildren will be kept. How are we going the right education to teach them how to take care of themselves? Do we have sinks all over the place so they understand, or microwaves? Those kids will be, you know, everyone knows my health. I worried that to the last, before they took me into surgery. Who's going to take care of them? Who's going to teach them? That's a big concern. And I would hope that we could sit down and figure out who it is instead of waiting to the last minute, finding person. And the budget's the big thing. I always thought the budget would be brought tonight to be able to say it, but apparently they haven't. But it shouldn't be so high. If there is, then we're really doing something wrong.
All right, thank you very much, Ray. All right, that concludes our public hearing. Next up is the approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the work study, regular session, executive session meeting minutes of June 3rd, 2024 as presented.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
I
Motion passes. All right, consent agenda. You have a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion on consent agenda?
We always like to read the gifts to the district. And so from the Washington Music Educators Association to Grove Elementary, $6,000 to support music education at Grove. Cascade PTSA, Zubeen software purchase as an enhancement for the 24-25 reading program in the amount of $2,995 for a total of $8,995. And then, wow, Nancy, the gifts that you outlined for the Totem Music Program were fantastic as well.
Any other discussion for the consent agenda? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. All right, next up, board action number 1, appointment of board member. I have a motion.
To appoint Craig Harris for District 4 Director position.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion?
Well, I would just like to say that was a very tough decision to make, and we narrowed that down to 2 candidates, and I want to just say thank you for putting your name in and for consideration. I know that it is not an easy decision to make, to put yourself out there, and that I hope that those that did did try to win this seat through appointment, that they keep coming back and keep being an active part of serving and upholding this community.
Thank you.
So I think I would just echo your comments. It was really gratifying to have 4 really strong candidates, and I think it just really demonstrates the depth of commitment folks have to our community and that folks really want to serve and help at this particular time. I can say just personally for me, it was an incredibly difficult decision. It seems like for the last year or so, it's been a series of what's the least worst choice, and this felt like we've got a wealth of riches here. And I thought that there were strengths that all of the candidates would bring to the position. And I'm, again, really grateful that we had so many candidates apply.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was really, really hard and like has already been said. I mean, I personally wish we could have added to our to the board.
Please.
Yeah, but I just want to thank the ones that put their hat in the ring because it was very encouraging that we had so many good people to pick from. So all of you that tried, just run at the next, keep giving to the community.
Well, I won't say how difficult it was because I think the other 3 already covered that. I will say that that is a good problem for Marysville to have such good candidates that it is difficult to choose between the candidates and who would best represent Marysville. So I'm glad that we could get to this point that we're at today and fill this empty seat. Again, after obviously we have to vote on it, but I think next steps will be that either Jane or Jody will reach out to the candidate and we'll set up a special session at some point, either this week or next week, to actually swear that individual in, and then we'll get him rolling on drinking water through a fire hose, because that's what it's going to be like. So. All right. I think that's all the discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Congratulations, Craig. All right, next up on the agenda, board action item number 2, Sophos MDR Complete Cybersecurity System. This is going to be presented by Maureen Munoz from Technology Services Manager.
Hi, I'm Maureen Munoz, the Technology Services Manager.
Hi, I'm Mario Ortiz. I'm the Systems Administrator for the school district.
We're here to discuss the request for Sophos MDR Complete Cybersecurity System. The district is a member of the OMNIA NCPA Purchasing Cooperative, and utilizing this cooperative, the district meets all bid requirements. The district is requesting to purchase a 3-year cybersecurity service for managed detection and response and network detection and response for all servers, staff devices, and mobile devices. It also covers backup and recovery and phishing threats. We are asking for the approval of requisition number 298062 to the Trebron Company in the amount of $107.79 for payment number 1 out of 3 payments.
All right, thank you very much. Is there a motion?
I move to approve requisition number 0000298062 to the Trebron Company, Inc. in the amount of $213,107.79 for payment number 1 out of 3 payments.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Well, since we're all sensitive to spending money, I just want to reiterate, so this comes from our technology capital funds and they have to be used for technology, correct? It's not that it can be used for general fund and those types of things. Okay.
Thank you for giving the extra information on here. I went through it the other day and made it easy for me to just, understand what's happening. When are the next payments due?
In 12 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the first one was August 19th. That would be when the contract would due. I think it's 30 days after that, the first payment, and then it would be each subsequent year after for
Okay.
3 years.
Okay.
Well, I would just reiterate, I guess, that this is super important, having good cybersecurity measures in place. We've, like the FBI director has warned against protecting your infrastructure. I know myself in my government job, I keep receiving kind of like phishing scams. Like one came from HR today and I was like, I already took that training, I thought, but it was a phishing scam. So I think having the proper cybersecurity controls in place are super important.
Yeah, cybersecurity is becoming, my mic is like louder than everyone else's. I feel like I'm yelling as soon as I talk. Cybersecurity is becoming significantly more important, especially in public entities. I know even in the nonprofit organization that I work for, which is tied to aerospace work. They're taking this quite seriously as well, and they're mandating cybersecurity implementation for most folks who deal with aerospace manufacturing. And so in these situations, obviously, we need to keep up with the technology that is out there to infiltrate our systems. We have to keep up with our defenses in that regard. So is there any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, board action item number 3, policy 2415 for first reading, presented by Vonnie Walker, Executive Director of Secondary Education.
Hello, Board and Dr. Robbins. I have 4 situation reports to bring before you today, so we'll start with our first one here. And this is policy 2415, the performance-based pathway for high school graduation. This proposed policy and its accompanying procedure is new to the Marysville School District. WASDA created it as a model for districts that plan to support student graduation using a performance-based pathway. The State Board of Education provides the minimum of expectations, including scoring rubrics for completing these pathways. Both Heritage High School and Legacy High School will benefit from this policy as it aligns with the big picture learning that they're doing in their buildings. If the systems and opportunities arise, though, this pathway is available for all graduates. So I'm asking that you approve policy 2415 and its accompanying procedure 2415P for first reading as presented.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the first reading of policy 2415, performance-based pathway for high school graduation for first reading and its accompanying procedure 2415P.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. All those, discussion. I'll say that, so when we bring a policy for first reading, this isn't, when the board votes on this, we're not voting to approve this policy. So we would be voting whether or not we want to even start the conversation to enter this policy for approval. So by approving this action, what we're saying is we want to take a deeper look into this policy and how it'll affect MSD, and then ultimately bring it back up for a second reading and potentially adoption. So with that said, is there any other discussion?
I don't know that I have any questions, but just a comment. I appreciate you bringing this forward. I think it's important that there's multiple pathways for students to succeed, since we know, you know, students learn in different ways. So I appreciate having this pathway.
I would reiterate that. I know seeing some, I had the opportunity to sit in on a it was the quarter ending, I don't, it's like their highlight at Heritage where they present and they talk about all the different opportunities that they had with their performance-based learning. I also purchased a Bone Game CD from a senior Image Morse Enoch who graduated last year, and that was a part of his learning was the production of that that CD, the experience of marketing it, making it, the learning that he did. And so just having these opportunities for students is really, I think, needed and I think vital, especially for students who they just learned better that way. So just great opportunity for our students.
I don't have anything to add.
Yeah, Mr. Mike, there, you mentioned something during public hearing and you were talking about students who uh, are able to achieve because they do their work hands-on and that's exactly the type of student that I was when I was going through school. I was a kinesthetic learner and I had a hard time focusing in the classroom, but when I got out and I was actually able to contribute through building things, or I was actually in horticulture and being able to learn that way benefited me immensely. So being able to expand our reach and what this policy says is graduation pathways that are student focused, adaptable, rigorous, and meaningful. I think that's important to have that sort of variety of programs. So thanks for bringing this to us. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. You're up for the next one, Open Doors Database Development and Support Interlocal Agreement.
I am, and this will be the second year that our Open Doors program uses this. So this is a request to spend some of their OSSI grant funds for the upcoming year. The Open Doors program uses this database to support students by helping them manage and track where they're at. And these are Open Doors is our students that might take longer. So this is super seniors and super seniors. So those ones that maybe have done 4 years, but they're still continuing to work on their graduation. And the overarching goal is to get them all graduated, obviously each year. Open Doors also use this to help obtain a GED if needed. The database also manages and tracks the other 120 plus students that are enrolled and continue to remove and add throughout the year. So Open Doors is a rolling program. The $10,083 is based on the monthly fee of $840.25 per month for 12 months. So this will be continuing something they're using right now with success. Well, my recommendation is to approve.
All right, thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the interlocal agreement between ESD 113 and Marysville School District for development and support of the Open Doors database.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? This, so this is being funded by Open Doors OSSI grant, and this grant is awarded to us specifically for this type of purpose.
Correct. OSSI grants are meant for schools that hit certain triggers for needing to close achievement gaps. So Open Doors is graduation rate is a big indicator there. That's why students go. So they receive state funds every year that they can use then to apply and help success.
Yep, thank you very much.
I have no other questions.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Yet again, Bonnie, you're up. Walsworth yearbook renewal bid.
It's the Bonnie show tonight.
That's right.
Yes. Okay, so what we have for you right now is a renewal of our Walsworth bid. This is something that we have been using and we're having the schools that use this for their yearbooks are very pleased with the service. So this is not an opening of a new bid, but it's that final year of renewal. So it's in alignment with Strategic Goal 5 and per Board Policy 6220. We awarded this contract in April 16th of 2020. And we're exercising our option for that yearly renewal through 24-25. So I ask that you approve the renewal of the bid to Walsworth to supply yearbook services for the 24-25 school year.
All right, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the renewal of bid number 012020 to Walsworth to supply yearbook services for the 24-25 school year.
Second.
All right, motion and a second discussion.
Well, they seem to be giving us a good price and I'm glad that we're happy with them. So.
And the services they provide to the instructional leaders of those classes is very valuable.
Good.
I was just going to say, to note this again on fiscal impact, that the contract is funded through ASB funds. So again, we're not using our general funds here.
Thanks for taking my one and only remark there.
Doing my best.
No, along with Beth, if anybody would like to go see, I think you can pull this link up in the agenda, but Walsworth, I mean, they're coming in, way under the other two that we reached out to, and we've been using Walsworth for quite a while. And they've done some pretty good work. Okay. All right. Is there any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Next up, yet again, Ms. Vonnie Walker, fuel bid renewal with Petrocard Inc. for the 2024-2025 school year.
Okay. Board Superintendent Robbins, I'm here once again for the final of my situation reports. This is asking to approve a renewal for our Petrocard. So in October of 2023, Petrocard Incorporated was awarded the fuel contract for the district fuel bid, which is right, it's our buses, it's all of our transportation, with the option of yearly renewals through 27-28. So I am recommending that we go ahead and exercise this option for another year to provide fuel for the district for the 24-25 school year.
All right, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the 1-year contract renewal with Petrocard Inc. to provide the district with fuel for the 2024-2025 school year.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Is the number on here, is that like an interest or? Yeah. Or is that what we pay per gallon? The bid?
I think if you put those all together, right, you would add the three. Or let's see here, there are different types of fuel. We have our gas, our fuel, but then there's also the optional fees. So that probably is, it looks like it's a winter additive.
Mm-hmm.
Where you at? Okay, I need to call for backup support. I am just the figurehead for these. All right.
Help me out here. Don't have my glasses on, so you'll have to bear with me.
It's really little.
Yeah.
So yes, they give you the minimal. Well, it's really tiny, isn't it? I apologize, that's so tiny, you guys. So this was the cost last year, and I think in the contract, it tells you that there's an optional fee for the additive for the winter fuel. And this is the state contract. We went off of the state contract, so this is the state pricing. And so whatever the state pricing is this year would also be, but I don't believe it's changed much at all. But this was their actual bid, so we can't change their numbers on this paper. So if it's increased, it's in minimal and it's all the state bid.
Is Petrocard a monopoly?
No, they just happened to be the only one that bid. We had, prior to them, we had Nelson Petroleum. There's quite a few different ones. And by going off of the state bid, so the state has gone out and did all of the big bidding. We put out that we were doing a big bid. They happened to be the ones and they gave us the pricing that comes on the state bid. So there's other options on the state bid, but because they were the ones that gave us the quote, we went with them last year and you guys gave that approval at that time last year.
So we went out
Yes,
for a bid, but only one.
we
Only
only
for-
had, and that was the first time ever. So, yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
So,
So we didn't really go to bid this year. We just
Correct.
used the state contract.
We renew with them. We've got several years that we can renew with them through the 27-28 school year. If we become unhappy, we can then go back out to bid at any point between now and that time.
I think it's always good to get the state contract. It's always financially responsible and they've already done all the work.
Excuse me, just out of curiosity, is this cost per gallon?
I can't really see it.
The description's on.
Oh, there we go. It is really tiny. I have to say, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize how tiny it was when I sent this in. When it's reprinted.
As if so, my goodness. It can't be.
I think that is, I mean, we can go on to the bid, onto the state and look at exactly what it is priced out.
Thank you
But
so
that is
much.
pretty much, yes. I have the other documents.
No worries. I can follow back up with you. Thank you so much.
And a penny for diesel.
I know. That would be an amazing personal prize.
Would be lovely.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our action items for tonight. Follow-up items, we have work study dates, board meeting dates, upcoming events. The next regular session meeting will be on August 19th, 2024. I believe it's just a regular session as it stands right now, so that'll start at 6 o'clock. Superintendent comments.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to again welcome Brooke Marshall and Brandon Bowman to our team. Brooke has been a human resources professional at the K-12 school district level and at the college level. She has already made valuable contributions to the district and we are thrilled to have you on board. Brandon, we're happy to have you on the team. Brandon Bowman brings a wealth of financial experience to the team. He's managed billion-dollar budgets in the private sector, and he too has already made valuable contributions to the district. Brandon is new to K-12 finance, but he is not new to the business office or accounting tasks by far. He already has a great network of support from the K-12 finance community statewide. Welcome, Brandon. Welcome to both of you. And that is my.
Thank you very much. Board comments. We'll start with you, Director Davis.
Philip, CAIA. I just want to say thank you to all those guests who came and gave reports. And again, saying thank you to Austin for putting his name in. I think you have a lot of valuable knowledge to help serve and uphold the community. And I really want to encourage you to continue, taking part and asserting that. And just, we're lucky to have folks like yourself in our corner and doing good work in our community. Also, welcome to our new executive team here, Brandon and Brooke. Nice to meet you. I didn't even realize you were over there. I'm so sorry. It's not very good, but again, looking forward to just continuing to build together and move our district forward. So, I encourage everybody, keep coming back. I encourage everybody, make your comments, using the set up email that, TJ has presented and, keep moving us forward.
Very much.
So I also want to thank folks for showing up tonight. If nothing else, it shows that we have a lot of people in our community who are passionate about our school district and care about our school district. And in addition to the folks that are here tonight, we have heard about the Greenhouse Project. We've got teachers, community members, churches, all involved over there at MP, working on that project, as well as the MG boosters that have a golf tournament that they're working on for, I think, the weekend of the 16th to try to help fund C-team coaches, since that's not something we've been able to fund. And then we have numerous folks in the community that have K through 12 experience, that are coming in behind the scenes, so to speak, to offer advice and support and help. So we've got a wealth of resources in our community. And I'm really grateful for that. I think, the message delivered tonight, both by the auditor and by OSPI, is sobering. It's not terribly surprising, right? But definitely sobering. And I think, it's important to understand how we got here. But I think we also need to move away from kind of pointing fingers and get to problem solving. And it's something that I know this community can do. I've spent a lot of time, online. My husband laughs at me often. But looking through the Marysville Globe, and there's been a couple of different points in time, 2008, 2011 in particular, where the community came together to figure out really challenging budget problems. And if there's ever a time to do that, it's clearly now. I can certainly say that, hindsight's 2020. I've been here for maybe a year and a half now. And certainly if I knew now what I knew a year ago, or if I knew now a year ago, I would probably do things differently. But, again, we have the opportunity to work together now to fix our problems. Austin, thank you so much. Risk spectacularly. I know where you got that. It's time for us as a community to risk spectacularly and figure this out. I think I'll leave it at that.
Can I just add one more thing? I'm sorry. I wanted to let everybody know that tomorrow at 5 o'clock at the Tulalip Amphitheater is the Tulalip Tribes National Night Out, and community invited. Please come. There's going to be a lot of resources there. They asked for over 100 tables to be delivered there. So to me, that says there's going to be a lot of people there giving out a lot of resources. And as Kristen plugged the greenhouse project, there is another community cleanup coming up on the 3rd weekend of August, which falls on the 23rd, 24th, 25th, and there's a Facebook page for it. Please, if you can, share that page or come out and help get that greenhouse back in order and be a part of that project.
Thank you very much.
I don't know what I can add. I guess I can talk. Connor and I went to the Marysville Community Coalition last week, and it's good that so many people care. And one of the things that I've said is we're listening, we're working on things about totem closing. I'm not sure, but I think that schools needed to be named, but I don't think that we're set on those schools. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but we haven't voted on anything, and this feedback we're getting from the community is very valuable. So I appreciate what is being said. And I appreciate Christy, mentioning the need for paras, because I know that they're just hurting in these schools and the kids need the extra supervision. So I'm hoping that we can make progress there. And I want to say congratulations to Craig for, his appointment and looking forward to working with him.
Thank you very much. Again, the pros and cons of going last are that there's not much more else to say. But I will again congratulate Craig, the newest member of the team. Look forward to making that appointment official in the next week or two, and then working alongside you. For Austin, thanks for putting your name in the hat, being an advocate for the community, for the staff members, students. My hope is that the other three candidates, that they would continue to have that kind of passion and that fire burning, because even though you might not be able to contribute from up here, a lot of the heavy lift actually comes from there, from those seats. And so I think that that both places suit you, but I think being out there, I think you're going to do great stuff in the community, along with a tremendous amount of others. I mean, I've experienced a lot of conversations with folks over the last 2 months. I think I've had the opportunity to speak to more folks than I have in the last previous year, which is a good thing. Learned a lot. Again, Beth mentioned that myself and her were at the community forum last week, which was well attended, well put together by the Marysville Community Coalition. My give back personally will be to follow up on all of the questions that I didn't have answers to. I think that'll come shortly, and I think I'll distribute it to the appropriate personnel to put it on the Facebook page. But other than that, again, I thank all of you for being here tonight and staying until the end. It shows how much the community cares, and I do think, even though we're in a painful position right now, I think that there's a lot of positive momentum. I can see that. I can feel it whenever I'm out and about talking to folks. And so I would hope that we would continue to build on that. I think tonight's meeting was a step in the right direction, just having the Financial Oversight Committee here, sharing with all of you and allowing you to provide feedback to them. I think that's going to do nothing but help the district and the community. So I appreciate that opportunity from OSPI. And again, I've plugged this probably 5 times tonight, but I'll plug it again. FOC@k12.wa.us. That's the email. You can email your questions, concerns, comments to the Financial Oversight Committee.
So before we close out, Connor, I just, because I'm a little sensitive to our, the oversight that we're receiving from our friends at OSPI, and I just want to provide a little bit of nuance, especially given that one of the points in the letter for the Financial Oversight Committee was with respect to school closures. It's a really difficult conversation, and we need to be able to have that conversation with our community. And just kind of given the timeline of the different letters and the requirement that we name schools, it's been hard to have those conversations. I think what the board as a group probably needs to communicate is that we're committed to making the reductions that we need to make in order to meet those goals. And I guess it is a hard conversation to have, but I don't want to leave room for folks to think that we're not committed to meeting the financial goals that we need to meet. And again, really challenging that, we had letters in the order that we did, and we were required to name names in the way that we were. There's more conversations to come, but I think we need to restate that we have to make, you know, really difficult choices, and we need to get to those numbers, unfortunately.
Yeah, appreciate that. That's a good segue. I know we're committed to a committee. We're committed to commit a committee. So around the school closure rollout plan, and I think that needs to happen fairly rapidly. I know a year is going to go by pretty quick, and so this sort of planning is going to take every bit of that time. So I think we'll hear some more information in the very near future about that committee. So be on the lookout for that. Again, that's going to be a valuable asset for us to be able to gauge where the community is at with that plan. So that's all I have. Are y'all good? All right. It is 7:08, and we're going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.
Recording stopped.